Out of the car, you filthy animal! You don't belong in neighborhoods like this." The officer's fist slammed against the window before it was halfway down, while the second officer moved in fast, hand hovering near his holster. "License, registration. Or did you leave it back in whatever dump you crawled out of?" When Alana Brooks asked, calm and steady, why she'd been stopped, the first officer jerked the door open and dragged her onto the pavement. He forced her to her knees on the asphalt, gravel biting through fabric into skin. "Hands over your head." "Now." She laced her fingers above her hair as the second officer twisted her arm down hard, cuffs snapping tight around her wrists. The first officer crouched close, voice thick with contempt. "Trash like you belongs in a cage." Alana lifted her chin from the asphalt. "I'm your new police captain." Neither officer realized whose authority they had just chained. Before continuing, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you can't miss. Through the windshield of her Lexus, Captain Alana Brooks studied the pristine suburban landscape of Maple Ridge Drive. Perfectly manicured lawns stretched like green carpets beneath mature oak trees. Children's bikes lay abandoned on driveways, their owners called in for dinner. American flags hung limp in the humid late afternoon air. She drove slowly, taking mental notes of her new jurisdiction. 23 years in internal affairs had taught her to observe everything. The "back the blue" signs, the security cameras mounted on garage corners, the way certain houses had extra locks, while others left their screen doors wide open. The flash of red and blue lights in her rearview mirror broke her concentration. Alana checked her speedometer. Exactly 25. 5 under the limit. She pulled to the curb, keeping her hands visible on the steering wheel as two officers approached, one on each side. The one at her window rapped sharply with his knuckles. Officer Clay Borden, according to his nameplate. His face was set in hard lines, jaw clenched. "License and registration," he barked, hand resting on his holstered weapon. "Good afternoon, officer," Alana said calmly. "May I ask why I'm being stopped?" "Broken taillight." "Step out of the vehicle." "I had my car serviced yesterday. All lights were functioning properly." Borden's face darkened. "I said step out of the vehicle. Now." Alana kept her movements slow and deliberate as she unbuckled her seatbelt. The second officer, Pike, hung back, watching with uncertainty. As soon as she opened her door, Borden grabbed her arm and yanked her forward. "Hands on the hood!" He slammed her against the hot metal, grinding her cheek into the sun-heated paint. The smell of wax and burning skin filled her nostrils. "Your vehicle matches a robbery suspect description," Borden growled, twisting her wrist when she tried to speak. "Stop resisting!" "I'm not resisting," Alana said evenly, even as pain shot through her arm. "This is unnecessary force, Officer Borden." "Shut up!" "Pike, search the vehicle." Pike hesitated. "Shouldn't we call in the plate first?" "I said search it." Alana heard her car door open, followed by rustling as Pike dug through her belongings. She kept her breathing steady, like her father had taught her after his own encounter with police brutality in '68. Stay calm, stay alive, document everything. "Well, well," Borden sneered, leaning close to her ear. "Pretty fancy address for this neighborhood. How does someone like you afford a place on Oakwood Court?" The implications in his tone made her stomach turn, but she kept her voice level. "Officer Borden, I suggest you check." He yanked her arms behind her back, metal cuffs biting into her wrists. "I suggest you keep your mouth shut before you make this worse." A screen door creaked. Through her peripheral vision, Alana saw a woman step onto a nearby porch, phone raised. Rosa Martinez. She recognized her from the community liaison files. Good. They needed witnesses like her. The cuffs tightened until Alana's fingers began to tingle. She could feel her pulse throbbing in her numbing hands. "I'm your new police captain," she said clearly, loud enough for Rosa's phone to pick up. Borden's laugh was ugly. "Right. And I'm the Tooth Fairy." He keyed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 47. Run a check on—" He paused, realizing he hadn't taken her ID. "What's your name, smart mouth?" "Captain Alana Brooks, badge number 8249, recently transferred from Internal Affairs Division to assume command of the Maple Ridge Police Department." The radio crackled. Time stretched like taffy as they waited for dispatch to respond. Borden's grip on her arm tightened painfully. Static broke the silence. "Unit 47, be advised. Captain Alana Brooks is confirmed as new MRPD commanding officer, effective today at 0800 hours. The pressure on Alana's arms vanished as Borden took a quick step back. She turned slowly to face him, hands still cuffed behind her. His face had gone pale, eyes fixed on the restraints he'd just applied to his new commanding officer. Rosa Martinez's phone kept recording, capturing every second of the heavy silence that followed. Pike stood frozen by the passenger door, Alana's purse still in his hands. Papers from her briefcase littered the passenger seat where he'd dumped them during his search. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the perfect suburban lawn. A sprinkler ticked rhythmically nearby. Somewhere down the street, a child called out to their mother. Alana could feel the handcuffs digging into her wrists, could see the growing realization in Borden's eyes as he processed exactly what he'd done and who he'd done it to. She said nothing, letting the moment stretch, letting him squirm under the weight of his actions. Rosa shifted on her porch, adjusting her grip on her phone. The small movement seemed to break the spell. Borden stammered, reaching for his keys with trembling fingers. "Is there a problem, Officer Borden?" Alana asked quietly. His face flushed red as he fumbled with the cuffs. "No, ma'am. Captain, I apologize for the misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding," she repeated, keeping her voice neutral as he finally managed to unlock the restraints. She rubbed her wrists, noting the deep red marks that would likely bruise. "Is that what we're calling this?" Pike had started gathering the scattered papers, shoving them haphazardly back into her briefcase. "Captain, I'm so sorry. We didn't—" "No?" She finished for him. "No, you didn't. But you didn't ask either, did you?" Officer Borden's face had lost its aggressive mask, replaced by a sickly pallor as he stared at his boots. Behind him, Officer Pike shifted nervously, running his hands through his hair. "We're dead," Pike whispered, his voice barely audible over the idle of their patrol car's engine. "We are so completely dead." Captain Brooks stood straight-backed on the pristine suburban curb, carefully adjusting her blazer where their rough handling had wrinkled the fabric. The red marks on her wrists were darkening, promising bruises that would serve as evidence. "I apologize again, Captain," Borden tried, his earlier sneer replaced by desperate politeness. "If we could just—" "Your badge numbers," she cut him off, voice precise and cold. "Both of them. Now. Captain, please, we can work this—" "Badge numbers," she repeated, "and you will both remain on scene until a supervisor arrives." Rosa Martinez hadn't lowered her phone, capturing every word from her porch. Other neighbors had emerged now, drawn by the commotion. Phones appeared in windows. Curtains twitched. A black SUV with department markings rolled to a stop behind the patrol car. Lieutenant Wade Harlow stepped out, his silver hair catching the late afternoon sun. His smile was practiced, professional, the kind perfected through years of press conferences and community meetings. "Captain Brooks," he called out, striding forward with his hand extended. "What an unfortunate way to start your first day. I can't apologize enough for this miscommunication." Alana noted how he immediately framed it. Miscommunication, not misconduct. Simple confusion. not abuse of power. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Watch how fast they try to minimize it, baby girl. Lieutenant Harlow, she acknowledged, leaving his hand hanging. I'm initiating a formal internal review of this incident. His smile flickered for just a moment before recovering. Surely we can handle this internally, Captain. A simple misunderstanding shouldn't start your tenure with unnecessary paperwork. Unnecessary? She raised an eyebrow. Your officers conducted an illegal search, used excessive force, and applied restraints without cause or proper procedure. Which part of that seems unnecessary to document? More cars were stopping now, drivers slowing to watch the scene unfold. Rosa had been joined by other neighbors on her porch, a small crowd of witnesses with recording phones. Perhaps we should discuss this at the station, Harlow suggested, his voice dropping lower. Away from all this. Attention. No, Lieutenant. This started in public. It stays in public. Alana turned to Borden and Pike. Officers, I expect detailed reports on my desk by end of shift. Lieutenant Harlow can explain the internal review process to you. She walked to her Lexus, noting the scratches on the hood where they'd slammed her down. The inside was a mess, contents of her purse scattered, briefcase emptied onto the seats. Captain, Harlow called after her, the mayor will want to discuss this. Perhaps we could all meet tomorrow morning? I'm sure he will, she replied, starting her engine. But right now, I need to document these injuries and file my own report. I suggest you do the same. As she pulled away, she caught Borden's reflection in her mirror. He was leaning close to Harlow, muttering something with a dark look. She didn't need to read lips to recognize the sentiment. They never lasted long here, that's what he'd be saying. They'd made sure of it. Her phone started buzzing before she'd gone 3 blocks. Local news stations first, then the mayor's office. She let them go to voicemail, focusing on navigating the quiet suburban streets that would soon be her battlefield. Social media moved faster than official channels. By the time she reached her rental townhouse, the first clips were already circulating in neighborhood Facebook groups. Rosa's video was the clearest, starting from the moment Borden slammed her against the car, capturing every second of the power dynamic shifting as her identity was revealed. Alana sat at her kitchen counter, watching the view count climb. Her wrists throbbed where the cuffs had been too tight, but she didn't ice them yet. Better to let the bruises develop fully for documentation. Her phone lit up again. Mayor Thomas Avery's number. This time, she answered. Captain Brooks, he began, his politician's voice carefully modulated. I want to express my deepest. Save it, Mr. Mayor. I'm initiating a formal review. Alana, may I call you Alana? I understand you're upset, but perhaps we should consider the department's reputation. A little restraint might. Restraint was what I showed during the incident, sir. Now I'm showing accountability. There's a difference. The union will fight this, he warned. It could get messy. It's already messy. Check your social feeds. She heard him sigh, imagined him pinching the bridge of his nose like politicians did when their careful plans started unraveling. Just sleep on it, please. We can discuss options in the morning. Alana ended the call and turned back to her laptop. The view count on Rosa's video had passed 200,000. Comments poured in, some supportive, others defensive of the officers, all of them angry. The familiar battle lines were being drawn. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. A screenshot of Lieutenant Harlow checking his watch, accompanied by 3 question marks. She deleted it without responding. They'd try to rattle her, test her resolve, see if she'd back down like others before her. But she wasn't like the others. She'd spent 23 years in internal affairs, learning their playbook. She knew how the old guard operated, how they closed ranks and buried complaints. They thought they were dealing with just another reformer they could wait out or wear down. They were wrong. The morning sun painted long shadows across the station's lobby, as Captain Alana Brooks pushed through the glass doors, her polished captain's bars catching the light. Every head turned. 3 officers near the coffee machine froze mid-conversation. A clerk's fingers stopped typing mid-word. The sudden silence felt thick enough to cut. She moved with measured steps across the tile floor, boots clicking steadily. Her pressed uniform and ramrod-straight posture projected authority, while the barely visible bruises on her wrists told another story. Officer Borden, slouched against the dispatch desk, straightened abruptly and found somewhere else to be. "Good morning," she said to no one in particular, her voice carrying in the quiet. No one answered. Outside in the Civic Plaza, city workers had arranged neat rows of folding chairs facing a small podium. American flags fluttered in the breeze, carefully positioned for optimal photo opportunities. Camera crews from local stations were already setting up their equipment, adjusting light reflectors against the morning glare. Mayor Avery stood with a small group of city council members, all wearing carefully neutral expressions. Lieutenant Harlow approached him, speaking in low tones while gesturing toward the podium. The mayor nodded, his politician's smile never wavering. "Captain Brooks," Harlow called out, waving her over. "We've got the ceremony scheduled for 9 sharp. The mayor would like a quick word beforehand about messaging." "Of course he would," Alana replied, matching Harlow's professional tone. She noted how he positioned himself between her and the mayor, playing gatekeeper even now. The swearing-in ceremony itself was a masterclass in suburban political theater. The mayor spoke about new chapters and building bridges. Harlow stood at attention beside Alana as she raised her right hand, his face a mask of supportive professionalism. The small crowd offered polite applause that died too quickly. Camera shutters clicked rapidly, capturing the moment for evening news segments. As soon as the last hand was shaken and the final photo taken, Alana headed straight for the evidence room. The bruises on her wrists had deepened overnight, providing stark contrast to the crisp white of her uniform shirt. "I need to review yesterday's body camera footage," she told the evidence clerk. "Officers Borden and Pike, full shift." The clerk glanced nervously toward Harlow's office before logging into the system. "Yes, ma'am. There might be some technical issues from yesterday." Alana settled into the review station, noting how the clerk hurried away. The footage started normally, the patrol car following her Lexus, the initial stop. Then, exactly when Borden grabbed her arm, the video jumped, 47 seconds missing, resuming just as dispatch confirmed her identity. The most damaging moments, conveniently absent. "Samir," she called to the IT technician hovering nearby. "Can you explain this gap?" Samir Patel approached reluctantly, his hands fidgeting with his ID badge. "It appears to be a sync error, Captain, sometimes when uploading to the server." "A sync error that perfectly matches the moment of excessive force?" Alana turned to face him fully. "Show me the server access logs." Samir's face paled. He glanced at the door, then back to Alana. That would require special—" "Now, Mr. Patel." His fingers trembled slightly as he pulled up the system logs. "There was an access at 3:12 a.m. using lieutenant-level credentials. The file was modified." "Lieutenant-level credentials," Alana repeated softly. "Like Lieutenant Harlow's clearance tier?" Samir swallowed hard and nodded, unable to meet her eyes. Through the evidence room window, she could see Earl Griggs, the Union president, holding court in the parking lot. A group of officers clustered around him, faces serious as he spoke. Even through the glass, his gestures made his message clear. Us versus them. Insiders versus outsiders. Several officers nodded along as he pointed toward the station. Alana walked to her office, boots echoing in the now empty hallway. She sat at her desk and began typing, her fingers moving with precise purpose. Minutes later, she stood and walked to the briefing room where afternoon shift change was gathering. The room fell silent as she entered. She moved to the front, placing a stack of papers on the podium. "Effective immediately," she announced, her voice firm and clear. "I am initiating a complete department-wide audit of all body camera footage, evidence handling procedures, and associated documentation from the past 12 months. She held up the papers. "This is a formal preservation order. All footage, logs, and records are to be maintained without alteration. Any violation will result in immediate suspension and possible criminal charges." The silence grew heavier. In the back row, Harlow's face remained carefully blank, while Griggs's reddened with barely contained anger. "Questions?" she asked the room. No one spoke. She returned to her office, closing the door behind her. A manila envelope sat centered on her desk that hadn't been there before. No markings, no return address. She opened it carefully, sliding out a single black and white photograph. The image showed a young black man on his knees, arms raised as police batons descended. Birmingham, 1968. Her father. Blood ran down his face as he stared directly into the camera, eyes defiant. Scrawled across the bottom in red ink, "Some things never change." Alana studied the photo, her expression unchanging. She could feel eyes watching through the office windows, waiting for a reaction, waiting to see if she'd flinch, if she'd back down like others before her. She placed the photo face up on her desk, positioned so anyone entering would see it clearly. Then she turned back to her computer and continued typing the audit orders, her keystrokes steady and determined. The midday sun beat down on the station's parking lot as protesters lined the suburban sidewalk. Their signs looked suspiciously new, the ink still glossy. "Support our police," "Brooks breaks trust," and "Outsiders go home." The crowd of about 50 people stood in neat rows, far too organized for a spontaneous gathering. Lieutenant Harlow adjusted his tie before stepping toward the hastily assembled press podium. News vans had materialized within minutes of the first protesters arriving, their satellite dishes reaching into the cloudless sky. Earl Griggs worked his way through the crowd, patting shoulders and whispering in ears, conducting their responses like an orchestra. "We're all one community here," Harlow said smoothly into the microphones, his voice carrying across the lot. "Change is always challenging, but we need unity, not division." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Our officers have served this community faithfully for generations. Any suggestion of systemic problems is, frankly, offensive to the men and women who risk their lives daily." The crowd responded on cue with approving murmurs and nods. Griggs smiled from the sidelines, satisfaction clear on his face as he watched his performance unfold. Captain Brooks stepped forward, her uniform crisp despite the heat. The murmurs turned to scattered boos, quickly hushed as cameras swung her way. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice steady and measured. "In the interest of transparency and public trust, I'm announcing today that we've contracted an independent firm to conduct a comprehensive audit of all body camera footage and disciplinary processes." She held up a document. "The City Council approved this measure this morning." The crowd's reaction was immediate and hostile. "Go back to the city," someone shouted. "We trust our police," called another. Griggs didn't even try to hide his smirk. Within hours, the police scanner crackled with a string of crimes. 3 smash-and-grab robberies at local businesses, an armed theft at Springfield Pharmacy, a car break-in spree in the Oakwood subdivision. But something was off about the response times. In the dispatch center, Alana watched the GPS tracks of patrol cars taking circuitous routes to calls. Unit 27 somehow needed 20 minutes to reach a location 4 blocks away. Unit 15 accidentally turned down 3 wrong streets responding to an alarm. She recognized the pattern, a coordinated slowdown designed to let fear build in the community. "Captain?" Samir Patel stood in her office doorway, shifting nervously from foot to foot. "There's something you should know." He glanced over his shoulder before continuing. "Someone accessed the evidence servers again last night, between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. They were searching for specific date ranges." Alana nodded, unsurprised. "Thank you, Samir. I need those access logs." "Already printed them." He placed a folder on her desk, then hurried away as if the papers might burn him. Her desk phone rang. Rosa Martinez's voice came through, tight with anger. "Captain Brooks? I need to report an incident. Officer Borden just cornered me near my driveway when I was getting my mail." Alana's pen moved across her notepad. "Tell me exactly what happened." "He asked if I still had that video of your arrest. Said I should be careful what I post online because accidents happen in nice neighborhoods too." He smiled the whole time, like he was just being friendly, but Rosa's voice hardened. "I'm not afraid of him, but you should know what they're doing. I appreciate you reporting this, Ms. Martinez. I'll need a formal statement." "I'll be there in 20 minutes, Rosa said firmly. After taking Rosa's statement, Alana gathered the evidence server logs and headed to Harlow's office. He was on the phone, but waved her in with that practiced smile. Family photos lined his shelves. 3 generations of police officers in uniform. "Captain Brooks," he said warmly after hanging up. "Quite a morning we've had. These demonstrations are unfortunate, but you know how passionate our community is about law enforcement." "Let's talk about server access," Alana replied, laying the logs on his desk. "Specifically, the multiple late-night entries using lieutenant-level credentials." Harlow's smile didn't waver. "Technical maintenance happens at night to minimize system disruption. Standard procedure. Maintenance that coincidentally targets footage from specific incidents, that removes 47 seconds of an arrest, that searches dates matching ongoing investigations. You're new here, Captain." Harlow leaned back, still smiling, but his eyes had gone cold. "You don't understand how things work in communities like this. The suburbs might look peaceful, but they bite hard, especially when outsiders try to fix what isn't broken." "Is that a threat, Lieutenant?" "Just friendly advice from someone who knows the territory." He stood, straightening his already straight tie. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to review these crime reports. Response times seem unusually slow today. We should look into that." Through his office window, Alana could see Griggs still working the remaining protesters, hands moving animatedly as he spoke. Several officers stood nearby, arms crossed, watching the station entrance. Borden's patrol car crept past Rosa Martinez's cafe for the 3rd time that hour. Harlow's smile widened a fraction. "Careful, Captain. Suburbs like this bite." The dispatch radio crackled to life in Alana's cruiser. "Unit responding. We have a traffic stop escalating at Pine and Sycamore, 2 blocks from Jefferson Middle School. Multiple witnesses on scene." Alana's stomach tightened. She turned her wheel sharply, tires gripping the smooth suburban asphalt. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across manicured lawns as parents picked up their children from after-school activities. She heard the commotion before she saw it. Cars idled in a messy queue, horns honking sporadically. Parents stood frozen on sidewalks, many with phones raised. Some covered their children's eyes. The scene came into focus as she pulled up. A teenage boy lay motionless on the concrete, blood seeping from near his ear into the expansion joints of the sidewalk. Clay Borden towered over the boy, chest heaving, knuckles white around his baton. His face was flushed, eyes fever-bright with adrenaline. Another officer stood back, looking uncertain. He resisted, Borden barked as Alana approached. Refused to show ID, then tried to run. The boy couldn't have been more than 16. His backpack had spilled open, textbooks and notebooks scattered across the grass. A Jefferson Middle School lanyard lay twisted nearby. Get medical here now, Alana ordered dispatch, her voice sharp. And I want every body camera preserved, immediately. A woman's scream cut through the murmuring crowd. Malik! Oh, God! Malik! Denise Turner burst through the yellow tape, her nurse's scrub still on from her shift. She dropped to her knees beside her son, hands hovering over him, afraid to touch. Ma'am, you need to step back, Borden started, reaching for her shoulder. Don't you touch me. Denise's voice cracked like a whip. Don't you dare touch me after what you did to my boy. Rosa Martinez stood at the curb, her phone steady as she filmed, though her hands trembled. Other parents had formed a loose circle, their own phones raised like silent witnesses. He was walking home from tutoring, Denise said, tears streaming down her face. He walks this way every Tuesday. Every Tuesday. Alana knelt beside her. Ms. Turner, medical is on the way. Try not to move him. She turned to Borden. Officer Borden, step back and secure your weapon. Captain, the subject demonstrated aggressive. That's an order, Officer Borden. Surrender your weapon to Officer Reynolds and consider yourself suspended pending review. The words rang out clearly across the intersection. Parents whispered. Several officers shifted uncomfortably. You can't do that, Borden sputtered, face reddening further. You need, I can and I am, your badge and gun, now. A siren wailed in the distance as Lieutenant Harlow's SUV screeched around the corner. He was out before it fully stopped, adjusting his tie with practiced smoothness. Let's all stay calm, he announced to the crowd. This appears to be an unfortunate misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Denise's laugh was bitter. My son is bleeding on the sidewalk. The ambulance arrived, paramedics rushing forward with their gear. As they worked, Harlow tried to guide the narrative. Our officer was responding to reports of suspicious activity. The suspicious activity of a black honor student walking home? Rosa called out from behind her phone. I have the whole thing on video, from the moment that officer pulled up and grabbed him. More voices joined in. A teacher stepped forward. Malik Turner is in my AP history class. He tutors younger students every Tuesday. He helps my daughter with math, another parent added. He's a good kid. Earl Griggs appeared, his bulk pushing through the crowd. He wore a suit despite the heat, Union President pin gleaming on his lapel. This is exactly what we feared, he announced loudly. This captain's hostile attitude toward our officers has created an environment of uncertainty. They're second-guessing their training, worried about being labeled racist for doing their jobs. He turned to the gathering of uniformed officers. The Union hereby announces it has no confidence in Captain Brooks's leadership. Several officers nodded. Others looked away, uncomfortable. No confidence? Rosa's voice cut through the murmurs. You're defending this? Look at that boy. Parents began booing. Officers glared. The paramedics lifted Malik onto a stretcher, careful of his neck. Denise held his hand until they reached the ambulance. Ms. Turner, Alana said quietly, I'll have an officer drive you to the hospital. No, Denise said sharply. No more officers near my son. Then let me drive you myself. They followed the ambulance to County General, lights flashing through the perfectly spaced trees of the suburban streets. In the antiseptic hallway outside the trauma room, Denise suddenly grabbed Alana's sleeve. Her fingers twisted the starched uniform fabric. They said you were different, she said, her voice raw. They said you were going to clean things up. If that's true, if you're really different, prove it. The fluorescent lights hummed in the hospital waiting room as afternoon sun sliced through dusty blinds. Denise Turner's fingers remained twisted in Alana's sleeve, her grip conveying both desperation and determination. The antiseptic smell hung thick in the air, mingling with coffee from a nearby nurse's station. I promise you, Alana said quietly, meeting Denise's eyes, there will be a full investigation. No buried reports, no missing footage, everything transparent. Denise's laugh was hollow. You know how many promises we've heard before? A doctor in light blue scrubs approached, clipboard in hand. Both women straightened. Ms. Turner? The doctor's face was carefully neutral. Your son is stable. The CT scan shows a hairline skull fracture and some concerning swelling. We'll need to monitor him closely for the next 48 hours. Denise's shoulders sagged with relief, though tension still lined her face. Can I see him? They're settling him in ICU now. I'll have a nurse come get you shortly. The doctor paused. The police will need a statement. They're not questioning him until he's recovered and has legal representation. Alana cut in firmly. That's not a request. After ensuring Denise could reach her, Alana drove back to the station, her mind racing. The setting sun painted the suburban streets in deep orange, each perfect lawn and trimmed hedge a mockery of the violence they'd witnessed. The station hummed with unusual activity for early evening. Officers clustered in small groups, conversations dying as she passed. She caught fragments. Making us look bad, and can't do our jobs anymore. In her office, she pulled up the digital request form for Malik's arrest footage. Required fields filled, submit button pressed. The system churned for several seconds before displaying error, file unavailable. She called Samir's extension. He arrived quickly, looking nervous. The footage should be there, he said, fingers tapping rapidly on his tablet. Unless... He glanced at the door, lowered his voice. There's an encrypted backup server. It requires dual authorization, you and Lieutenant Harlow, to access certain protected files. Protected files? Alana's voice was sharp. Show me. Samir led her to the cramped server room, fans whirring in the artificial cool. He pointed to a sleek black unit. This handles all body cam storage, but some footage gets automatically flagged and moved to secure storage, usually use of force incidents or sensitive situations. Get me in. I can't. Not without Lieutenant Harlow's credentials. It's a two-key system. Alana found Harlow in the break room, holding court with several officers. His smile didn't reach his eyes. We need to access Malik Turner's footage. Now. I'm afraid that's not possible, Captain. He stirred creamer into his coffee with deliberate slowness. Given the sensitive nature of an ongoing investigation, we need to maintain strict chain of custody protocols. I'm ordering you to provide access, and I'm following department procedure by securing evidence. His voice carried just enough for the watching officers to hear. We wouldn't want anything compromising the investigation, would we? Back in her office, messages blinked on her screen. Dispatch reporting multiple officers calling in sick for tomorrow's shifts. Response times to calls climbing. A neighborhood watch alert about suspicious activity, spreading panic. Her desk phone rang. Mayor Avery's number. Captain Brooks. His voice oozed concern. I'm hearing disturbing reports about department morale. Officer Borden is a decorated veteran. Perhaps a temporary reinstatement while we review procedures. A teenager is in ICU with a fractured skull. Alana cut him off. No. The union is threatening a vote of no confidence. The community is worried about response times. We need to consider... I'm considering evidence and justice, Mayor. Nothing else. After hanging up, she pulled department records. Overtime sheets, complaint dismissals, use of force reports. Hours passed as she built a spreadsheet tracking patterns. Suspicious clusters emerged. Officers in Harlow's inner circle logging overtime that didn't match gate records. Complaints mysteriously resolved with signatures dated before incidents occurred. The station grew quiet as night settled in. Through her window, she could see empty desks in the bullpen, a few lonely screensavers glowing. She spread paper copies across her desk, circling names in red. Harlow's signature on dismissed complaints. Griggs signing off on questionable overtime. Borden's repeated involvement in use-of-force incidents that never reached her predecessor's desk. The names formed a triangle of connection, each supporting the others, protecting their positions. She drew lines between them, studying the pattern in the harsh office light. The web of protection was clear, but proving it would require evidence they'd worked hard to bury. Her cell phone buzzed. A text from Denise Turner with a photo of Malik in the ICU bed, tubes and monitors surrounding him. No words needed. The image said everything about why this mattered. Alana uncapped her pen again, connecting more dots on the overtime sheets. Harlow, to Griggs, to Borden. A triangle of power that had controlled this department for far too long. She circled each name again, pressing hard enough that the ink bled through the paper. Coffee steam curled through fluorescent light in the briefing room as officers filed in for morning roll call. The usual chatter and laughter were absent, replaced by stiff postures and averted gazes. Alana stood at the podium, watching badges gleam dully in the institutional lighting. "Good morning," she said, her voice clear and firm. No one responded. 40 pairs of eyes looked through her or at the walls. She picked up a stack of printed orders, the paper crisp under her fingers. First item, Officer Clay Borden and Officer Ethan Pike are under formal disciplinary review, effective immediately. The investigation concerns excessive force used during the arrest of Malik Turner yesterday afternoon. She paused, scanning faces. Both officers are on paid administrative leave, pending completion of the review. A muscle twitched in Officer Morgan's jaw. Sergeant Kelly's pen scratched too loudly against paper. In the back corner, Earl Griggs leaned against the wall, arms crossed, a slight smile playing at his lips. Second item. Alana held up the printed orders. Effective immediately. All body camera footage is under preservation hold. No deletions, no edits, no alterations of any kind without my direct written authorization. This applies retroactively to footage from the past 30 days. Chairs creaked as officers shifted uncomfortably. Someone coughed. Violation of this order will result in immediate suspension and possible criminal charges for evidence tampering. She met several gazes directly. Questions? Earl Griggs pushed off the wall, union grievance form already in hand. Just filing this morning's paperwork, Captain. He emphasized her title with mock respect. The union has concerns about targeted harassment of officers and violation of established procedures. He turned to face the room, arms spread like a preacher at his pulpit. Brothers and sisters, remember, the union stands with you. We won't let outside agendas compromise officer safety or due process. Several officers nodded. Others murmured agreement. Griggs smiled broadly, dropping the grievance form on the podium with theatrical precision. "Dismissed," Alana said sharply. As chairs scraped and officers filed out, Deputy Chief Ronald Vickers touched her elbow. "A word?" His voice was low, concerned. They stepped into the hallway, away from lingering ears. "Captain, I understand your commitment to procedure." Vickers glanced nervously toward the briefing room. "But perhaps we could find some middle ground? Officer Borden has a clean record." "A clean record because complaints were buried," Alana cut in. "I'm following policy, Deputy Chief. Nothing more, nothing less." Vickers ran a hand through his thinning hair. "Policy isn't everything. Sometimes flexibility is what got us here." She turned away, ending the conversation. The morning crawled by in tense silence. Officers walked wide circles around her office. Dispatch calls crackled with subtle hostility. Around noon, a soft knock interrupted her review of server logs. Officer Daniel Cho stood in her doorway, younger than most on the force, his posture military straight. "Captain, may I speak with you privately?" She gestured to the chair across her desk. Cho closed the door carefully before sitting, his movements controlled but his face pale. "What I'm about to tell you—" He swallowed hard. "I should have come forward immediately. Take your time, Officer Cho." After Malik Turner's arrest, I was in the server room running reports. Lieutenant Harlow came in with Officer Borden. Cho's hands gripped his knees. Harlow ordered a deletion, said it was routine cleanup, but— He pulled out his phone, hands trembling slightly. I took screenshots of the terminal timestamps. I knew it wasn't right. Alana accepted the phone, studying the images. Access times, user IDs, file operations, all documented with precise detail. Then in the locker room, Borden was bragging. Cho's voice tightened. Said the Turner kid had it coming, and laughed about putting the new captain in her place during your arrest. Others laughed too. She handed back the phone. Thank you, Officer Cho. I know this wasn't easy. They'll know it was me. No, they won't. She met his worried gaze. I protect my sources. After Cho left, Alana dove into the server logs, cross-referencing his timestamps. Her internal affairs training kicked in, following digital breadcrumbs, matching access patterns, building an airtight chain of evidence. By mid-afternoon, she had it. Clear proof of Harlow accessing and altering footage during specific time windows. The city council chamber was nearly empty when she arrived for the closed session. Heavy wooden panels absorbed the late afternoon light, filtering through tall windows. Council members shuffled papers, looking uncomfortable as she connected her laptop to the presentation screen. The evidence is unambiguous, she began, clicking through timestamp matches and access logs. Lieutenant Harlow deliberately accessed and altered body camera footage following both my arrest and the Turner incident. This violates multiple department policies and state laws regarding evidence preservation. Councilwoman Martinez leaned forward. These deletions can be proven? The server maintains hidden logs of all access attempts. Even deleted files leave traces. Alana advanced to the next slide. I've highlighted the relevant timestamps and user credentials. Council President Wilson removed his glasses, rubbing his eyes. This is concerning. Very concerning. We'll need to schedule an emergency session for a removal vote. Tomorrow evening, Councilman Peters added. This can't wait. Alana gathered her materials as the council members whispered among themselves. Through the chamber windows, she could see the station across the street, its windows reflecting the setting sun like flames. Golden afternoon light spilled across the courthouse steps as Alana pushed through the heavy oak doors. Her heels clicked against worn marble, echoing in the quiet air. At the bottom of the steps, two familiar figures waited, Denise Turner and Rosa Martinez, their faces tight with anticipation. How did it go? Denise asked, stepping forward. Her nurse's scrubs were wrinkled from a long shift, dark circles under her eyes betraying sleepless nights by Malik's bed. The council's voting tomorrow evening on Harlow's removal. Alana kept her voice low, mindful of passing city workers. The evidence is solid. Rosa glanced over her shoulder at a group of officers gathering near the police station across the street. Words already spreading. My customers were talking about it all afternoon. How's Malik? Alana asked Denise. Relief softened Denise's features. He woke up an hour ago. That's actually why I'm here. She pulled out her phone, fingers trembling slightly. He told me what really happened. I recorded it. They moved to a concrete bench away from foot traffic. Rosa kept watch while Denise pressed play. Malik's voice was weak but clear. I had my hands up the whole time. Officer Borden yanked me out by my collar. I didn't fight back. I know better. He slammed me down. My head. The recording paused as Malik caught his breath. I heard him laugh when I hit the ground. Alana's jaw tightened. We'll need a formal statement when he's stronger. The doctors say maybe tomorrow. Denise tucked the phone away. The swelling's going down faster than expected. A young patrol officer hurried past, phone pressed to his ear. Minutes later, more officers emerged from the station, clustering in small groups, gesturing animatedly. The news was spreading. "It's starting," Rosa observed. She pulled up her neighborhood messaging app. "Look, people are already organizing. They're planning to pack tomorrow's council meeting." Comments scrolled past. "Time for change. Stand with Captain Brooks. Justice for Malik." Alana's phone buzzed. A message from Daniel Cho. "Formal statement submitted. Union rep tried to talk me out of it. Standing firm." "Your young officer came through," Denise said, reading over Alana's shoulder. "He's risking everything," Alana replied. They all know it was him who provided the timestamps. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the courthouse lawn. Denise headed back to the hospital. Rosa returned to her cafe. Alana drove to the station, nodding to the desk sergeant as she made her way to her office. For hours, she assembled evidence methodically. Server logs printed and annotated. Overtime records showing suspicious patterns. Harlow's inner circle claiming impossible hours. Complaint files with missing statements. Convenient witness recantations. She built timelines, cross-referenced dates, documented every procedural violation. Around 10, she drafted a preservation request to the State Police Oversight Board. "Pursuant to Statute 7.142, I am formally requesting immediate preservation of all department records, including but not limited to personnel files, disciplinary records, body camera footage, overtime documentation." She detailed specific dates and incidents, knowing Harlow's allies would try to destroy evidence once the removal vote became official. Her father had taught her early. Document everything. Trust no one. Build your case like steel. The office grew quiet as night shift began. Officers avoided her hallway. Only the soft whir of the printer and distant radio chatter broke the silence. Near midnight, her phone started buzzing. Unknown numbers, one after another. She let them go to voicemail. The evidence package took shape. 3 thick binders of documentation, everything time-stamped and notarized. She made copies, storing one set in her personal safe, another in her car's locked trunk. Trust no one. Her father's voice echoed. Her email pinged at 4:47 a.m. Subject line, "Notice of Investigation, Official." The first paragraph hit like ice water. The city attorney's office has received credible allegations of financial misconduct during Captain Alana Brooks's tenure with the Chicago Police Department Internal Affairs Division. She read further, her throat tightening. The charges were precisely crafted. Unauthorized access to confidential files, selective enforcement, misallocation of department resources. Nothing provable, everything damaging. Dates and details woven together to create a picture of corruption. These allegations require immediate review. Pending investigation, all disciplinary actions and policy changes initiated by Captain Brooks are suspended. Dawn crept through her office blinds as she read the notice a third time. The timing was surgical. Hours before the removal vote. Any defense would take weeks to assemble. They'd structured it perfectly to create doubt, to make the council hesitate. Her phone buzzed again. Mayor Avery. Emergency meeting. 7 a.m. My office. Alana set the phone down, watching sunrise paint golden stripes across her evidence binders. All those hours of careful documentation, witness statements, server logs, now tangled in a web of manufactured doubt. The station began stirring to life outside her office. Coffee brewing, radios crackling, shift change approaching. She heard Harlow's voice in the hallway, followed by muffled laughter. Her eyes fell on the framed photo on her desk. Her father in his Sunday best at that 1968 protest, moments before the batons fell. He'd taught her another lesson, too. They fight hardest when you're closest to the truth. The morning sun climbed higher, warming her face through the blinds. She reached for her phone to call Denise. The council needed to hear Malik's statement before the vote. Truth still mattered, even when they tried to bury it in lies. Morning sun glinted off the polished stone of City Hall as reporters gathered in the plaza. Their cameras formed a wall of lenses, all focused on the podium where Mayor Thomas Avery adjusted his tie. Behind him, a row of department heads stood like sentries. Deputy Chief Vickers prominent among them, his face a mask of practiced concern. The plaza buzzed with suburban commuters slowing their morning rush, phones raised to capture whatever was about to unfold. Lieutenant Harlow lingered at the edge of the crowd, arms crossed, expression neutral. Earl Griggs worked his way through the gathered officers, whispering and nodding. Mayor Avery cleared his throat, tapping the microphone. "Good morning. I've called this press conference to address serious allegations that have come to light regarding Captain Alana Brooks." Cameras clicked rapidly as he lifted a thick manila envelope. "My office received detailed documentation of misconduct during Captain Brooks's tenure in Chicago. These charges require immediate attention." Alana stood to the side, straight-backed in her uniform, watching the career she'd built unravel in carefully crafted soundbites. The dossier appeared as if by magic. Someone had done their homework, constructed the perfect weapon. "The allegations include unauthorized access to confidential files," Avery continued, "selective enforcement of regulations, and misallocation of department resources. While Captain Brooks has the right to defend herself, the severity of these charges requires immediate action." Deputy Chief Vickers stepped forward, his voice heavy with rehearsed regret. "As second in command, I'm deeply concerned by these revelations. The integrity of our department must be beyond question." Alana caught Daniel Cho's eye in the crowd. The young officer looked away quickly, shoulders tense. A senior sergeant was already moving to stand beside him. A warning. "Effective immediately," Avery announced. "Captain Brooks is placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation. Deputy Chief Vickers will assume temporary command." Earl Griggs smiled from his position near the front, a small satisfied curl of his lips as he watched Alana's authority stripped away. Around him, officers nodded and murmured approval. "Additionally," Vickers added, "the council vote regarding Lieutenant Harlow has been postponed until these matters are resolved. We cannot proceed with such serious questions hanging over the department." Alana felt her badge grow heavy against her chest. She'd known this was coming from the moment she saw that early morning email, but the reality still stung. 20 years of service, countless corrupted officers exposed and convicted, all dismissed with a few well-placed lies. As the press conference dispersed, Alana watched Daniel Cho receive his new assignment, traffic duty at the furthest intersection from the station. The message was clear: cross the blue line, pay the price. "Captain Brooks!" Denise Turner's voice cut through the crowd. She pushed past reporters, Rosa Martinez close behind her. "Is this true? Tell me this isn't happening." Alana moved them away from the hungry cameras. "Denise!" "My son is still in the hospital," Denise's voice cracked. "Borden is still out there. You promised me." "I know." Alana kept her voice steady. "I swear to you, these charges are fabricated. They're trying to stop the investigation because we're getting close." "Close to what?" Denise demanded. "Another dead end? Another betrayal?" Rosa touched Denise's arm. "Look at the timing. They're scared of what she found." "They should be," Alana said quietly. "I have evidence that goes beyond Malik's assault, patterns of misconduct, covered-up complaints, financial irregularities. That's why they're doing this now." Denise wiped angry tears. "Evidence doesn't help if they take you down first." "Trust me," Alana said. I've dealt with corruption before. They fight hardest when you're closest to the truth. As the plaza emptied, Harlow approached with 2 officers. Your badge and department credentials, Captain. His voice carried just enough sympathy to seem appropriate for the cameras still rolling nearby. Alana removed her badge slowly, felt its familiar weight one last time. She handed over her department ID and building access card. The ritual of surrender, performed under morning sun. I'll need your weapon as well, Harlow added. The ghost of a smile touched his lips. She unholstered her service pistol, cleared it professionally, handed it over, grip first. Protocol to the end. The drive home felt surreal. Suburban streets rolled past, trimmed lawns, American flags, children's bikes on porches. The same neighborhood where they'd first tried to break her, forcing her face against a hot car hood. Now they had a new weapon. Bureaucracy, paperwork, careful character assassination. Her townhouse looked unchanged, but something was wrong. The mailbox hung slightly askew, its lock scratched and forced. They weren't even trying to be subtle anymore. Inside, she documented everything. Photographed the mailbox damage, noted times and details, the same meticulous attention to evidence that had made her feared in internal affairs. They thought administrative leave would silence her. They didn't know her at all. Night fell slowly, streetlights clicking on one by one. Alana sat in her darkened living room, reviewing her options. The evidence was solid, but she needed access to department servers to prove the timeline. Without her badge, she was locked out. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. She approached cautiously, checked through the peephole. Samir Patel stood on her porch, shoulders hunched, eyes darting nervously. When she opened the door, he thrust a small flash drive into her hand. They didn't delete everything, he whispered, voice trembling. The living room lamps cast warm pools of light across Alana's hardwood floor as Samir Patel slipped inside. His hands shook while securing each lock, checking twice to make sure they caught. The curtains were already drawn tight against the night, but he still glanced nervously at the windows. I should have come forward sooner, Samir said, pulling the flash drive from his pocket. But after what happened to the last IT manager who reported irregularities, he trailed off, adjusting his glasses. What happened to them? Alana asked, gesturing for him to sit. Officially, early retirement. But I saw the threatening emails, the corrupted personnel files. Samir perched on the edge of her couch, spine rigid. That's why I started the backups. Every Friday night, like clockwork. Full system mirror to an encrypted drive. Alana connected the drive to her laptop. And you kept this off-site? Safety deposit box. Samir managed a weak smile. I'm anxious, not stupid. Files populated the screen. Thousands of them. Server logs, deleted body cam footage, financial records, emails. Samir leaned forward, pointing to specific folders. Here, look at these timestamps. Every deletion ties back to Harlow's credentials. And these payment records. He opened a spreadsheet. Blue Shield Consulting. It's registered to Earl Griggs's brother, but they bill for officer training services that never happened. Alana's eyes narrowed as she scrolled through the numbers. $500,000 in the last year alone. How did this get past auditors? The invoices look legitimate, unless you cross-reference attendance records, which conveniently disappeared during a server upgrade last month. A soft tap at the back door made Samir jump. Alana checked the security camera feed on her phone. Daniel Cho stood in the shadows of her small garden, collar turned up against the night. She let him in quickly. Sorry for the cloak and dagger, Daniel said, brushing past potted herbs. But they're watching the front of your house. Borden's cousin parks his truck down the block every few hours. What made you come tonight? Alana asked. Daniel's jaw tightened. I was at Marino's diner after shift. Borden was there with some guys from the union, drinking, running his mouth. He was bragging about the Chicago story, how they'd found someone to build the perfect complaint file, said it would teach the her about consequences. Did he mention specifics? Just that it cost serious money. But Griggs said it was worth every penny to protect the department's culture. Daniel spat the last word. Another tap at the back door. Denise Turner this time clutching her phone. Her nurse's scrubs were wrinkled from a long shift, dark circles under her eyes. "They tried to threaten my boy today," she said, without preamble. "But the hospital cameras caught everything." She pulled up a video on her phone. The footage showed a hospital hallway, Malik's room visible at the edge of frame. Clay Borden leaned into the doorway, his back to the camera but his posture unmistakably aggressive. "I can't hear what he's saying," Alana said. "The night nurse could," Denise replied. "She was around the corner. Said he told Malik that accidents happen all the time in custody, and some people never wake up from sedation." Her hands shook with rage. "Security chased him out, but they're scared to file a report." Alana connected her laptop to the TV, creating a larger workspace. "Samir, help me organize these files chronologically. Daniel, I need you to write down everything you remember from the diner. Exact quotes if possible. Denise, can you get a statement from that nurse?" They worked through the night, piecing together a timeline. Deleted footage restored. Financial trails uncovered. Witness statements compiled. Alana drew on 2 decades of internal affairs experience, building the case layer by layer, backing up every claim with multiple sources. "The key is making it survive political pressure," she explained, adding another document to the evidence package. "They'll try to discredit individual pieces, so everything needs redundant verification. If one witness falters, another source supports the same point." Around 3 a.m., Samir discovered emails between Harlow and a private investigator in Chicago, discussing payment for opposition research on Alana. The timing matched perfectly with the misconduct allegations. "They're not as careful about covering their tracks anymore," Daniel observed, reviewing the emails. "They're used to getting away with everything." "That's how corruption works," Alana said. "It feeds on itself, gets bolder, sloppier. They think they're untouchable." Dawn approached as Alana finished compiling the evidence package. Her federal contact, Sarah from the Civil Rights Division, had texted back immediately. "Send everything. We've been building a broader case." Denise returned from her late-night hospital visit with the nurse's sworn statement. "Malik's doing better," she reported. "He wants to testify about what really happened during his arrest." "We'll need his statement," Alana said. "But first, we have to ensure his safety." She turned to Daniel. "Can you coordinate with hospital security? Set up a protection detail with officers you trust?" He nodded. "I know a few who are sick of Borden's tactics." At 6:47 a.m., Alana encrypted the evidence package and sent it to multiple federal addresses. She logged into the department's press system, her credentials still worked there, and scheduled an emergency press conference for 11 a.m. Samir had fallen asleep on the couch, laptop still open beside him. Daniel paced by the windows, watching the street. Denise sat at the kitchen counter, scrolling through her phone's gallery of video clips. The sun rose over suburban rooftops, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Alana reviewed her notes one final time, preparing for the fight ahead. The City Hall press room buzzed with anticipation. Camera lights created a harsh glare across the wooden podium as journalists packed every seat. Network logos adorned microphones clustered at the front, their red recording lights blinking steadily. The room smelled of coffee and nervous energy. Lieutenant Wade Harlow leaned against the back wall, arms crossed, a practiced smile fixed on his face. Mayor Thomas Avery fidgeted with his tie in the front row, while Earl Griggs whispered intently to a cluster of uniformed officers near the door. At exactly 11:02 a.m., Captain Alana Brooks strode in through the main entrance. She wore her full dress uniform despite being on administrative leave, brass gleaming under the lights, every crease razor sharp. Her face betrayed no emotion as she took her place behind the podium, arranging a thin folder before her. "Good morning," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the speakers. "I'm here to address several serious matters concerning corruption and misconduct within the department." Harlow's smile tightened slightly. Griggs stopped whispering. "First, I'm releasing the complete unedited body camera footage from 2 recent incidents." She nodded to the tech operator, who pulled up the video on the large screen behind her. "This is from my own arrest on Maple Ridge Drive." The raw footage played, showing Officer Borden's aggressive approach, the brutal takedown, his mocking comments about her address. The audio captured every threat, every racial undertone. When it ended, she displayed server access logs highlighting the deleted segments and who had accessed them. Lieutenant Harlow's credentials were used to alter this footage at 3:12 a.m. the following morning, she stated, indicating the timestamps. Several reporters began typing furiously. She transitioned smoothly to Malik Turner's arrest footage. This video shows the unwarranted assault of a 16-year-old honor student. The horrifying images filled the screen. Malik's head hitting concrete, blood pooling beneath him, Borden standing over his unconscious form. Camera shutters clicked rapidly. A reporter in the front row looked pale. Again, server logs show targeted deletions using lieutenant-level access. She gestured to more technical data. Our IT specialist preserved these records despite attempts to erase them. Mayor Avery shifted uncomfortably in his seat as Alana moved to financial documents. Graphs and spreadsheets appeared on screen, showing suspicious overtime patterns and payment trails. Over $500,000 has been funneled through a shell company called Blue Shield Consulting, registered to Earl Griggs's brother, for training services that never occurred. She pointed to specific transactions. These signatures were forged to approve the payments. Griggs's face had turned an alarming shade of red. He started toward the podium but stopped when Alana held up a hand. "I have sworn statements from multiple officers," she continued, detailing how evidence was altered, complaints were buried, and witnesses were intimidated. Officer Daniel Cho's testimony specifically outlines Lieutenant Harlow's role in coordinating these cover-ups. Harlow's practiced smile vanished entirely. He glanced toward the side exit. "Additionally," Alana said, her voice growing stronger, "we've uncovered proof that the recent allegations against me were fabricated. Emails show Lieutenant Harlow hired a private investigator in Chicago to construct false misconduct claims, paid for with department funds." The double doors at the back of the room swung open. A team of federal agents in dark suits entered, spreading along the walls. Their leader, a tall woman with graying hair, stepped forward. "I'm Special Agent Martinez with the FBI Civil Rights Division," she announced. "We have active federal warrants for Lieutenant Wade Harlow, Officer Clay Borden, and Union President Earl Griggs on multiple counts of obstruction of justice, wire fraud, and civil rights violations." Chaos erupted in the press room. Reporters jumped to their feet, shouting questions. Cameras swiveled between Alana, the federal agents, and their targets. Mayor Avery sank lower in his chair, looking stricken. Harlow moved quickly toward the side door, trying to appear casual. His hand had just touched the handle when 2 agents stepped into his path, their badges gleaming. "Lieutenant Harlow," one said firmly, "stay where you are." In the hallway beyond the open door, Officer Borden appeared, his face contorting with recognition as he saw the agents. He spun on his heel and bolted toward the stairwell. The press room dissolved into complete bedlam. Reporters crowded forward, cameras flashing. Officers who had come to support Griggs now backed away, hands raised. Agent Martinez began reading rights as Harlow was cuffed, his practiced composure finally cracking. Through it all, Captain Alana Brooks stood calmly at the podium, watching justice unfold with quiet satisfaction. She had learned long ago that the most powerful weapon against corruption wasn't force. It was the truth, carefully gathered and strategically deployed. The polished floor of the City Hall corridor squeaked under Borden's frantic footsteps as he charged toward the emergency exit. His face was flushed red, tie flapping, desperation evident in every movement. He didn't see the federal agent rounding the corner until it was too late. The collision echoed through the marble hallway. Both men went down hard, papers scattering across the floor. Borden scrambled to his feet first, wild-eyed and panting. "Get off me!" he snarled, shoving away the agent's reaching hands. "I didn't do anything wrong." Two more agents converged quickly, their movements practiced and efficient. Borden thrashed violently, his carefully maintained image of authority crumbling with each desperate attempt to break free. "This is a setup!" he shouted, voice cracking. "You can't!" One of the agents swept Borden's legs, while another grabbed his arms. They took him down hard onto the cold floor, the impact driving the air from his lungs. The handcuffs clicked shut with decisive finality, steel biting into his wrists. Journalists spilled out of the press room, cameras raised high to capture every second. The harsh electronic whir of dozens of shutters filled the air as Borden was hauled to his feet, his perfectly pressed uniform now wrinkled and askew. Officer Pike stood frozen in the press room doorway, his face ashen as he watched his former partner being led away. Something seemed to break inside him. His shoulders slumped, and he stepped forward, speaking loudly enough for the nearest reporters to hear. "The taillight stop was fake," he blurted out, his voice shaking. "All of it. Lieutenant Harlow told us to put pressure on Captain Brooks before she could settle in. Said we needed to show her who really ran things." He swallowed hard. "I knew it was wrong, but I went along with it anyway." The admission sent a fresh wave of excitement through the gathered press. Cameras swung between Pike's confession and Borden's ongoing struggle with the agents. Deputy Chief Vickers, who had been trying to fade into the background, suddenly found himself the focus of intense scrutiny. Under the glare of camera lights and pointed questions, Vickers' composure cracked. He tugged at his collar, sweat beading on his forehead. "I hereby tender my immediate resignation," he announced stiffly, not meeting anyone's eyes. "I was unaware of the full extent of these activities." The claim rang hollow in the corridor. Several reporters scoffed audibly, and someone called out, "How many reports crossed your desk, Chief?" Mayor Avery, trapped by the surging crowd of journalists, looked like a man watching his political career implode in real time. Microphones thrust toward his face forced him to respond. "The city," he started, then cleared his throat. "The city offers its deepest apologies for these shocking revelations. We will cooperate fully with federal investigators to ensure complete transparency." Outside the building's main entrance, a crowd had gathered on the broad steps. The news was spreading fast through phones and social media. Some people cheered and hugged. Others stood in stunned silence, their back-the-blue shirts suddenly feeling heavy on their shoulders. Dozens of phones recorded the moment federal agents led Harlow and Borden out in handcuffs. Denise Turner stood at the edge of the crowd, gripping Rosa Martinez's hand so tightly her knuckles were white. Tears streamed down her face. Tears of fury for what had happened to Malik. Tears of relief that justice was finally breaking through. Rosa pulled her close, whispering fierce words of support. Captain Alana Brooks emerged last, her expression composed and professional. She didn't smile or gloat. Instead, She watched with steady focus as consequences cascaded through the department she'd been sent to clean up. Her father's old photo from 1968 flashed in her mind. His beaten face on that distant protest line. Some things did change, if you fought hard enough with truth as your weapon. The afternoon sun slanted across the council chamber as emergency session was called to order. The vote was swift and decisive. Captain Brooks would be reinstated immediately with expanded oversight authority. The same council members who had wavered days before now spoke passionately about accountability and reform. Alana sat quietly through the proceedings, her posture straight, her uniform still crisp despite the day's chaos. She had learned long ago that true change wasn't about dramatic gestures or personal victory. It was about steady pressure, careful documentation, and the patient building of an undeniable case. As the unanimous vote was recorded, she allowed herself a single deep breath, not of celebration, but of determination for the work still ahead. Outside the chamber windows, news vans lined the streets, their satellite dishes reaching skyward. The story was already spreading beyond their suburban boundaries, forcing other departments to question their own shadows. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in the station briefing room, casting harsh shadows across tense faces. Row after row of officers stood at rigid attention, their shoulders stiff and jaws clenched. The air crackled with a mixture of fear and barely contained resentment. Some avoided eye contact entirely, while others stared straight ahead with defiant expressions. Captain Alana Brooks entered the room, her footsteps echoing in the absolute silence. She carried a leather portfolio containing the official reinstatement papers, moving to the podium with measured steps. The same podium where Harlow had once held court, spreading his poison through the ranks. "At ease," she said, her voice carrying to every corner without needing to raise it. No one moved. She opened the portfolio and began reading the reinstatement order, each word precise and clear. By unanimous vote of the City Council, effective immediately. I am reinstated as captain of this department with expanded oversight authority. She looked up, meeting the hostile stares directly. Let me be absolutely clear about what this means. She pulled out a stack of documents and held them up. These are the new departmental policies. Each of you will sign an acknowledgement before leaving this room. She began listing the changes, her tone brooking no argument. First, all body cameras will now upload directly to secure cloud storage. No local deletion capability, no editing access. External IT contractors will manage the system. Several officers shifted uncomfortably. Second, a civilian oversight board is being established. They will have full access to complaint files, use of force reports, and body camera footage. Any attempt to obstruct their investigations will result in immediate termination. Murmurs rose from the back rows. Alana continued without pause. Third, mandatory retraining for all personnel. Ethics, de-escalation, and implicit bias courses. Monthly assessments. Failure to meet standards means desk duty until you do. She placed both hands on the podium, leaning forward slightly. The old system is dead. The Brotherhood does not supersede the law. Your loyalty is to the badge and the citizens it represents, not to each other's secrets. Officer Daniel Cho sat in the front row, his posture straight but relaxed. Unlike his colleagues, his expression showed quiet relief. Beside him, Samir Patel hunched in his chair, trying to make himself invisible as hostile glances darted his way. "Officer Cho!" Alana called out. "Step forward!" Daniel rose smoothly and approached the podium. Some officers muttered "rat" under their breath, but Alana's sharp glance silenced them. "In recognition of your integrity and commitment to proper procedure, you are hereby promoted to sergeant." She pinned the new badges to his collar herself. Your first assignment is implementing and monitoring the new body camera protocols. She turned back to the room. Mr. Patel has been granted official whistleblower status and will report directly to my office as head of IT security. Any retaliation against him will trigger federal intervention. The tension in the room ratcheted higher. Alana pulled out another stack of papers. Effective immediately. All patrol supervisors are reassigned. New rotation schedules are posted. This breaks up existing cliques and ensures fresh eyes on every shift. She began distributing the assignments, ignoring the glares and clenched fists. Overtime requires dual authorization now. Every hour will be audited. All past complaint files are being reviewed for patterns of misconduct. She looked up, her gaze sweeping the room. If you have something to confess, my door is open for the next 48 hours. After that, discoveries will be handled by federal investigators. Through the windows, residents could be seen gathering on the lawn outside the station. They stood in small groups, some with phones raised, others just watching. Their presence felt like silent witness to the transformation happening inside. Sign your acknowledgement forms before leaving, Alana said, gesturing to the stack on a side table. These confirm you understand the new policies and the consequences for violations. Anyone who refuses to sign will be placed on immediate administrative leave pending termination review. One by one, officers filed past the table. Some signed quickly and left, others paused to read every word, but all of them signed. The scratching of pens on paper filled the tense silence. Outside, the crowd continued to grow. They stood like sentinels, watching the station as if monitoring the passage of a storm. Parents who had witnessed Malik's assault stood beside neighbors who had filmed Alana's own humiliation on Maple Ridge Drive. Their presence sent a clear message. The old ways were over. As evening approached, the community center down the street began filling up for the scheduled neighborhood meeting. Through the glass doors, Malik Turner appeared, his head still wrapped in bandages. He moved carefully, but held himself straight, ready to tell his story to a packed room of attentive listeners. The community center gym hummed with nervous energy as dusk painted the high windows purple. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting harsh shadows across rows of metal folding chairs. Parents clutched papers and phones, while curious kids peered around door frames drawn by the unusual evening crowd. Denise Turner stood at the makeshift podium, her nurse's scrubs still on from her shift. Her hands gripped the edges until her knuckles went white, but her voice carried clear and strong across the packed room. "My son was walking home from school," she began, each word deliberate. "He wasn't running. He wasn't fighting. He was just walking, like any other kid." Her voice cracked slightly. Then Officer Borden decided he looked suspicious. Malik rose slowly from his chair, his mother's gentle hand steadying his elbow. The white bandage around his head stood stark against his dark skin. The room fell silent as he faced the crowd. "He didn't ask for ID," Malik said, his voice soft but steady. "He just grabbed my arm and yanked me toward his car. When I tried to tell him I lived 2 blocks away, he said I was resisting." Malik's hand drifted to his bandaged head. "Then he slammed me down. I heard something crack. He was laughing when I screamed." Murmurs of anger rippled through the crowd. Several parents pulled their children closer. Rosa Martinez stood next, her phone held up like evidence. "I recorded everything from the moment Officer Borden approached Malik. I have the original timestamp and location data." She took a deep breath. "The next day, Borden came to my cafe. He said people who film police tend to have accidents. He said my business might have health code violations if I didn't delete the video." Captain Alana Brooks sat quietly through each testimony, taking notes and nodding acknowledgement to each speaker. When Rosa finished, Alana stepped to the podium. "We've received updates from federal investigators," she announced, scanning the room. "Earl Griggs's personal and union accounts have been frozen pending forensic audit. The consulting firm run by his brother was raided this afternoon. Documents suggest a pattern of fraudulent billing dating back years." She held up a tablet displaying a spreadsheet. "The investigation is expanding to review all use-of-force incidents from the past 5 years. Cases previously marked cleared are being reopened." "We want names," someone called from the back. "Who else was involved?" "When will they face charges?" another voice demanded. Alana raised her hand for quiet. "I won't make vague promises. Here are the concrete steps. First, all body camera footage from active officers is being uploaded to secure federal servers for review. Second, we're establishing a civilian review board with real authority, not just advisory power. Third, we're implementing mandatory de-escalation training with quarterly assessments." She clicked through slides showing timelines and procedures. The new cloud storage system prevents local deletion or editing. Every view, download, or action is logged with user ID and timestamp. Multiple backups exist off-site. Questions flew from the crowd. What about past cover-ups? Will there be compensation? How do we know it won't happen again? Alana answered each directly, refusing to sugarcoat or deflect. She outlined specific policies, named oversight mechanisms, and provided clear channels for reporting violations. A representative from the Civic Progress Foundation approached the podium next. "In recognition of his courage in coming forward," she announced, "we're offering Malik Turner a full scholarship to any state university upon graduation." The crowd erupted in applause. Phones recorded as Malik stood again, tears streaming down his face, while his mother embraced him. Even the kids in the doorway cheered. Camera crews captured the moment. Not just the scholarship announcement, but the deeper significance. This wasn't celebration of a perfect solution. It was recognition that real consequences had finally landed, that truth had broken through the blue wall of silence. Local reporters scribbled notes as residents shared their own stories, past encounters suddenly relevant again as federal investigators expanded their search. Parents described teaching their children to fear those meant to protect them. Others recalled suspicious traffic stops, missing complaint forms, convenient camera malfunctions. As the meeting continued, Alana's phone buzzed with updates. More officers coming forward with information, additional accounts frozen, evidence preservation orders landing on desks across 3 counties. The sky outside deepened to rich orange, streaming through the high windows and painting everyone in warm light. Meeting participants broke into smaller groups, sharing contact information and organizing neighborhood watch committees. Kids who had been watching from the doorways finally ventured in, drawn by the energy of positive change. When the formal portion concluded, Alana gathered her materials quietly. She checked her watch, nodded to Denise and Malik, and headed for her car. She had one more stop to make while daylight lasted. A drive down Maple Ridge Drive, where everything had started. Twilight settled over Maple Ridge Drive like a gentle curtain, streetlights flickering to life one by one. The suburban street had returned to its usual quiet, but tonight it held a different kind of silence, one of anticipation rather than complicity. 8 new police recruits stood at attention on the same stretch of sidewalk where, months earlier, Captain Alana Brooks had been forced to her knees. Their fresh uniforms gleamed under the amber glow of streetlights, badges catching occasional glints of the fading sun. Sergeant Daniel Cho stood beside Alana, his posture relaxed but alert. His promotion had raised eyebrows, but his unwavering integrity during the investigation had earned respect from both the department and community. Across the street, a crowd gathered on Rosa Martinez's well-kept lawn. Denise Turner stood with one arm protectively around Malik's shoulders, his healing progressing well enough that he'd ditched the bandages last week. Rosa held her ever-present phone, though tonight she wasn't filming confrontation. She was documenting progress. Other neighbors lined the street, some who had filmed Alana's arrest, others who had turned away. Tonight, all eyes were focused forward, watching this new chapter unfold. "This spot," Alana said, her voice carrying clearly in the evening air, "is where Officer Borden claimed my taillight was out." She took 3 measured steps forward. "This is where he forced me against my car." Another 2 steps. "And this exact spot is where I was handcuffed and threatened." The recruits shifted uncomfortably, but maintained their formation. "Officer Park," Alana called out to a young recruit. "State the policy for traffic stops." The recruit straightened. "Clearly announce the reason for the stop. Maintain professional tone and language. Record interaction on body cam from approach to conclusion. Inform driver of their rights if search is requested. Document all actions in detail." "Officer Rivera, what's our policy on consent searches?" "Explicit verbal consent required. No coercion or threats. Right to refuse must be clearly stated. Written documentation mandatory. Supervisor notification for all searches." Alana moved down the line, having each recruit recite different sections of the new policies: use of force guidelines, complaint procedures, witness protection protocols. Their voices grew stronger with each response, the words becoming more than memorized text. A car turned onto Maple Ridge Drive, slowing as it passed. The driver, an elderly black woman, watched the scene with initial tension that melted into a small smile of recognition when she saw Alana. "These aren't just words on paper," Alana continued, pacing before the recruits. "These policies exist because real people were hurt. Real trust was broken. Real justice was denied." She gestured to the gathering across the street. "Those community members aren't here to judge you. They're here because they choose to believe change is possible." The streetlights cast long shadows now as dusk deepened. Behind the line of recruits, patrol cars sat idle, their new external cameras glinting. Each vehicle was equipped with updated technology: cloud-connected body cams, GPS tracking, automated activity logs that couldn't be altered locally. A young recruit near the end of the line raised her hand tentatively. "Captain Brooks?" Her voice wavered slightly. "What kind of department are we going to be?" The question hung in the air. Neighbors leaned forward slightly. Denise tightened her hold on Malik. Rosa lowered her phone. Alana let the silence stretch, let it fill with the weight of everything that had happened on this quiet suburban street. She thought of deleted footage and falsified reports, of Borden's sneer and Harlow's smooth lies. She thought of Malik's blood on concrete and Rosa's trembling hands as she filmed. She thought of her father's old photo and generations of silence. When she finally spoke, her voice was even and clear, carrying to every corner of Maple Ridge Drive, the kind that doesn't flinch when the truth speaks. The applause started softly, just a few hands at first, then building like a wave. It rolled across Rosa's lawn and down the street, past trimmed hedges and American flags, past houses where people had looked away, and houses where they had finally chosen to see. The patrol cars hummed quietly behind them, their presence no longer a threat, but a promise of protection earned through accountability and truth. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like to support my channel, and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. On the screen, I have picked 2 special stories just for you. Have a wonderful day.